I feel too melancholy to know how to like start this off, and like I don't know how to explain anything right now. Um, there's this. I don't even. Usually I have a title of the conversation before I start the conversation. I know where I want it to go. Well, I know what I want to talk about. And it's a little disjointed, so I'm not sure. But I guess it's gonna definitely be more about like mortality, legacy, anxiety. There's this phrase. Well, I guess and how that connects to not wanting to have children either, because that's something. I guess and loneliness. All those things are so like closely related to me right now. Um, there's this phrase that I started using. I don't know when I used it for the first time. I guess I could find out. It could be on my Instagram somewhere in some writing. Within the last 6 months, I think though, and it's more mortal than most. And it just I really the more that I use it, I really like it. And I wrote something today that I think um, yeah, I mean, you could find it on Instagram at some point. Probably, I think I'm going to post it today. So by the time you see this video, it'll be like 2 days after, maybe, or maybe one day after I actually wrote it. Anyway, yeah, this phrase I really like, more mortal than most. Besides the alliteration, it's just how I feel sometimes. That like when I'm getting anxious because of thinking of mortality and just like feeling more vulnerable than I feel like the average person might feel on a daily basis, which happens to me too often, of being like, yeah, feeling more mortal than most. It's really self-explanatory, but I mean that's kind of what I'm feeling or what I mean by that phrase. That I just feel too vulnerable, too aware of my mortality, um, and inevitable death. So cheery. Um, yeah, I don't know. I was feeling really melancholy today anyway, and I didn't like. I just wrote this thing where I feel like better, I guess, about this feeling, and just like feeling like that it'll pass, and that I'll just let it pass naturally and not try to fight with it too much because that would be bad. Which was kind of what I wrote about a little bit, just 2 small pages. But anyway, I just kind of had that feeling today. It started maybe a little bit last night. Just certain songs I was listening to that were like really beautiful songs, but they were like one of them was like saying goodbye to like a really great friend because they died. And then today, for some reason, I just like had this other song in my head, and then I listened to, which is again a beautiful song about like living every moment and stuff, and about death and mortality. Yeah, and I just had this feeling. So then I started thinking about, again, like I was feeling lonely, and just like even in the company of someone feeling lonely, and just thinking about that, and it's not a comfortable place to be, right? So those are kind of the thoughts that led me to talking about this. Something that I've thought about before, like what I would do in my old age, or like some people have brought it up too, like, oh, you don't want kids, so like what happens when you're old? Who's gonna take care of you? And just like I don't like thinking about when I get old, like so old I can't take care of myself. Like I don't like thinking about that. That's uncomfortable to think about. I would, I unfortunately, unfortunately for my mother, I guess, like I don't want to do at this point in my life because I'm super selfish or whatever it is. I don't really want to take care of my mom as she gets older in her age, and that might change in time. I mean, like right now, that's how I feel. I'm sure my sister doesn't want to do that either. Like we've had conversations about it, and that's like sad to think about because I also don't want her to not be taken care of. But I mean, it's just us, and like I think there's a cultural disconnect there too because it's like a big expectation, um, that especially in like maybe more like U.S. and Canadian culture, I mean, especially, well, I shouldn't say that. It's just people are coming from all over the place, right? So like Canadian culture is really like this mosaic, as we have said, and now it's more of like the melting pot, like the U.S. was described. But like people are bringing their own cultures all over the place. But I was born and raised here, and for me, like a lot of the influence I got was just like, or what I took from it or what have you. I mean, there's a lot of people that put their parents in like nursing homes or extended care homes or whatever, right? And that seems like more of my norm than being like, yeah, I'm gonna take care of my mom. That's what you do. Like that's not really how I was like influenced. And like I said, it's something that is difficult for me to think about and deal with, and I don't know, and that's just right now, and maybe that'll change. But then it gets me thinking about like, hey, well, I don't even plan on having kids, and if I had like more siblings or like cousins that I was close to, I mean, that's the other thing is that I don't have any family on the continent other than my mother and my sister. So, I mean, by like blood family, right? So, like, I don't have people that have like, because I was like always like, oh, maybe if I'm like the cool uncle or something like that, be tight. Like, I wouldn't mind that kind of disconnect of just like having younger folks in my life, like nephews and nieces and stuff like that, and being able to like talk to them and influence them and like hang out and just whatever, be a cool guy, I guess. And then like I don't know, like not saying that they would necessarily take care of me, but I mean like having like no family to take care of you once you get super old is like really depressing to think about. But I don't want to have family or have kids just for that purpose. That doesn't really make any sense because if I'm having kids, like a big reason I don't want kids is because of what I want to do with my life right now, how I want to spend my time and my priorities, and not feel like I need to have kids to fulfill or validate myself because I don't feel that way. Yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't want to do that just to set me up for later and be like, yeah, like I don't know what's going to happen later. There's so many things changing. You can't really predict what things are going to look like in a couple decades, how much money I'll have, what a pension looks like, what a care home looks like in, you know, 40 years from now. I don't know what that's going to be. It might not even be here in 2 years from now. Who knows? But it's just depressing to think about. But it doesn't make me change my mind. It's just kind of like, oh crap, like I'm not gonna have that kind of like built-in support system that a lot of people might rely on. Like, oh yeah, my kids will take care of me, and it's like maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I mean, like, you assume they will, and I won't really have that. And I don't even have like my sister doesn't plan to have children either. I mean, that might change for her. It might change for me. I don't see it changing for me. Like, you know, especially where I'm at in my life, and I'm over a decade older than my sister, so she's got a lot more time to think about that. Whereas I'm like, if I was gonna have kids, I probably should have by now because I don't want to be like super old and have like a teenager or like, well, not a teenager isn't a problem. It's, right away, it's a problem until like the first decade is over, decade and a half, whatever. Anyway, I don't think it's gonna happen, and like yeah, I just don't know. Like it just seems super lonely. If I had a partner, you know, that would seem a lot less lonely. But then, I mean, it's still like I don't know. Like if I have a partner with like some family, and then I kind of weave into the family a bit and become naturally part of it, and then that's there. Like maybe that is something that would happen. I don't know, but you can't plan that, right? Like I'm not. It's just yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm feeling really melancholy today, and I was just wanting to express that thing. Like I don't know. Like I said, it's really informal as to other conversations I've had. But I mean, just that's a reality that I'm faced with right now. I don't have kids. I don't plan on having kids. My sister does not either. I don't know what support system would be there in my old age for me unless I make one. And like maybe, you know, this is one of those things that like, oh, family is really important. Like you should have focused on family more. But yeah, but I don't want kids. What family can I focus on other than my mom? You know, and like my stepdad, who's an awesome guy, but like that's again, it's just like usually focusing on your parents or whatever, and then like your siblings. But like I'm not making my own family the way that a lot of people do. Like I would like to have a monogamous long term partner. Like that's you know what I want, and I'd feel a lot less lonely that way, and whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Just hit me really hard today. Really melancholy. Like I don't know, like, I think I'm feeling more sad now that I'm talking about it and exploring this idea than when I was, like, earlier in the day. And it was kind of like, I think I'll talk about that. I wasn't as sad. It was more, like, I don't know, these are just facts of my life right now. Again, they might change, but I don't see the kid thing changing. So it's just like, you know, one of those things you just, like, push out of your mind for a while because I don't have to deal with it now. I don't know what's going to happen. There's no point in worrying about it, really. There isn't. But some people don't have to worry about it because they have like insurance, for lack of a better term, that like they know that they're going to get taken care of. They know as much as you can. Like, yeah, I've got people in my life, I've got this and I've got that, and they have all these support systems, and I don't, and that's just the way that is. Not necessarily because I pushed a bunch of people away and I'm a horrible person, but I mean, like, I just don't have the same like like setup, family wise, that other people may have. And there's people that have a lot less than me too, right? So like that's a thing. But I don't know. That's just one of my biggest fears too, is like dying alone or like not having. Well, I mean, besides just dying, period, is dying alone and not having like a partner. I always think of that being the closest person to me. I really compartmentalize relationships and what relationships are what things. Like I've got friends and I've got acquaintances and then like a lover, or my family is different than my friendships, and like all that stuff is very different to me. Different kinds of love and stuff and different expectations with those relationships. And like again, I don't have the expectation of like my kids would take care of me necessarily. One, I haven't thought about it too much because I don't want kids, and two, that's not an expectation that I have on me from me, or my culture, society, whatever. I know that my mother kind of has that culturally, and she's talked about it, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know, mom, like as in a joking way, like I don't know what's gonna happen when you get real old, and that's like sad to think about. I don't know. This is a crappy conversation. But it's a real conversation, I guess. Like I just yeah. It was my mom's birthday the other day. I won't tell y'all how old she is, but how young she is, how wise she is now. But yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of I don't know if it's like a maturity thing or not, or just exploring my anxiety, or just like becoming like a better person, or just like less selfish or something. That like maybe it's also because I don't like confronting my emotions, despite the fact that I do that through art so much. But there's certain type of emotions sometimes, and sadness is something I've had a very difficult time dealing with ever since like high school, because I was just drowning in it so much that as an adult I've like really pushed that down and don't like to deal with it. Because the other thing to me is that I don't know what to do with it. What do I? Okay, so we accept that these things are sad, and then it just goes away. Like I mean, it's like the inevitability of death doesn't go away. I don't know how to accept it and deal with it and move on and pretend that it's not going to happen. Like, to me, it's always going to be sad. So that's the thing. It's like whether it's me dying or my mother or close friends or something. Like, I haven't had anyone close to me die yet. And maybe that's another thing, too. Is like that hasn't been something in my life. Whereas I think a lot of people, because they have such big families, that even as a child, they've had people close to them die. And maybe they've had that experience so that they've been able to accept that, whereas I have not, because I haven't had any family close to me. Like, I mean, all my family in Chile, including my grandparents and stuff, I like all my cousins, my grandparents, aunts and uncles. At most, I think I've met them. I'm trying to think. Like, I think my grandpa I've met 3 times in my life. I think. I went to Chile when I was 8 years old for 2 months for a summer. He came to Canada when I was in my teens, and then I went to Chile again when I was in my like mid-20s. So I met him like 3 times in my life. And everyone else probably 2 times or even 1 time, because and I guess I should say my grandpa on my mother's side. My grandmother on my mother's side, I think it's only the once that I met her, and I was like 8. I don't know. It's just messed up. My whole family thing's really like, it's just, I don't know. I don't have that closeness because I don't. Part of it is like nature and nurture and whatever, right? Like I don't have those cultural feels. Like I've mentioned this before. Like some of my family there, like I don't think I mentioned it to you before, but I mean, depending on who you are, I mean, we've talked about it. Where there's just like culturally, it's just like people that haven't seen me for a decade or more that I never talked to, like, oh, we love you, you're the best, like just because we're family, and I don't have those same obligations or expectations or ties that about family that other people have. Again, part of it's nature and nurture and some other things that I've just thought about on my own, but that's why like I don't have any grandparents alive anymore, and I still don't feel like anyone close to me in my life has died, because none of my really good friends have died. My mother obviously has not died. My sister has not died. Like, even if my father died, I wouldn't feel like it'd feel weird. I think the closest thing to that was actually when my grandmother on my mother's side, or sorry, my grandmother on my father's side, when she died last year. I felt weirder than any other grandparent dying, and I don't know why, because I wasn't super close to her. But I was like, it'd probably feel really similar to like if my dad died. Like I don't really have this huge connection with him and never have, So I don't know how that would like that would be weird. It'd be a weird thing to deal with. Whereas like every once in a while my mind wanders off to this like super sad dark place about like, oh, what if my mom died or something? How would I cope with that? Like I imagine that I would be pretty distraught, right? Like I have a connection with her that I don't have with some other people. So like, yeah, I don't know. It's messed up to think about, and I don't like thinking about it. And maybe talking about it is good. I don't know. Like I said, I guess the whole thing I was just thinking like a lot of people have had family pass away, like natural causes, old age, cancers, health problems, whatever, right? Or accidents. Like people have maybe had exposure to that, and I have not. And I'm sure there's people that have had even less exposure to that than me. But like, you know, I've been to like maybe one funeral in my whole life, and it was when I was like a tween, and it was somebody I didn't even know. So I haven't even like gone to funerals. I haven't like, and it would be awkward for me. Honestly, if I had to go to my grandparents' funeral, it'd be awkward because I wouldn't really be grieving, and everyone else around me would be expecting me to. And I'm just like, I didn't have a connection, like a genuine connection to me. Just knowing that somebody is blood related to me without having spent real time with them connecting doesn't mean anything. What makes it awkward and weird is that people feel like I should feel something, but I don't feel what people are expecting me to feel, and I can't do anything about that. Like I don't. I could have in the past spent time cultivating those relationships and really trying, but I didn't, and that's the reality I live with. I didn't do that. That connection was never made on my end for how I feel, and I can't do anything about that now. So if anything, like that would be the awkward thing is like that expectation would be there, and I don't like I don't fulfill it. Um, yeah, like again, this is like a really instead of like planning out my videos more and kind of like thinking what direction I'm gonna go. I just today was probably the most loose one that I thought of. But it's like I had this general feeling and I wanted to talk about it. I knew it'd be a conversation, and I really didn't. I never know exactly where they're gonna end up, but I know what kind of notes I want to hit, and I've already did that in the first like couple minutes. I don't want to rant and like just bumble my way through a bunch of minutes, but I also feel like usually I come to a natural conclusion. Maybe sometimes I don't and it ends abruptly. I don't want to do that right now. I don't really know what to do. It's all awkward. It's all weird. It's all sad. And like I don't know how to deal with death. I don't know how to accept that and move on and just be like that's going to happen and that's okay. Let's just enjoy the time we have. Like in theory, yeah, that's great, but that's not my reality. That's not how I process things. That's not how I think about things. It's not how I live. Doesn't mean I can't get to that place. I hope I can get to a place where I can enjoy life more because of that. And everything that I've been, you know, writing about and thinking about and talking about in my writing more than anything, which I post randomly. When I sometimes it's like 2 months old and I'll post it on Instagram, and sometimes like today I'm going to post it. Where I'm exploring that thought a lot of like getting away, distracting myself from life and reality. I made a video about that too, and it's just like, well, that's kind of what it's kind of what it is for me, and I know that's not the way it is for everyone else. That like, it's not just everyone's just distracting themselves from death. There are people that I feel like genuinely have accepted that's going to happen, and we just live and enjoy stuff, and when it happens, then it happens, and then we deal with it then. Or you don't even know it's going to happen to you, right? And then it's done. But, yeah, I don't know. I guess recently, too, I've just been feeling very small. Just like driving around, I'm like, there's so many houses here, and I live in a small city, and I'm like, there's so many people. I'm nothing, and that's not comforting to me. I try so hard, and I've talked about, like, wanting to be important and be, like, you know, remembered and all this stuff and like that, you know, and I don't necessarily think that would make me feel better, but it kind of might. But just being like nothing doesn't comfort me, and some people it's like, yeah, we're all nothing, like no one matters, nothing matters, and this whole like connection to nihilism that some people have that like it's not comforting to me. I don't know what is comforting to me, and that's part of my problem, and I'm trying to figure it out. So So have a beautiful Saturday or Sunday afternoon or morning or whatever time this gets uploaded. Yeah, try to enjoy some life, I guess. This is weird, so I'm going to stop. We'll see you on another time, hopefully.